Since the beginning of time, the Creator established a sacred rhythm, and the number 7 was its heartbeat. 7 days, 7 cycles, 7 blessings. But somewhere along the timeline of history, we drifted away. What was once in harmony with the heavens became a constant noise, and that noise is growing louder. July 7th, Psalm 07, may be the moment when everything changes. Few realize that the number 7 is more than just symbolic. It's a spiritual language, a cosmic key that connects the cycles of heaven to the events on earth. In Genesis 2:2, God rested on the 7th day. And that rest wasn't about fatigue. It was about sanctification. A sacred portal was opened, and that pattern was meant to repeat forever until mankind chose to ignore it. The Book of Jubilees, a forbidden and forgotten text preserved only in the Ethiopian tradition, reveals God's original calendar, based on the sun and built upon cycles of 7. Why was it hidden? Because it unveils a truth that could change everything we believe about time, faith, and divine judgment. According to Jubilees 6:32-38, humanity made a fatal error by abandoning the solar calendar. We traded sacred time for man-made time. That distortion corrupted the timing of festivals, confused the Sabbath, and pulled us away from the divine rhythm. Every time we follow a broken calendar, we deepen our disconnect from heaven. Time has become chaotic, and with it, our emotions, our decisions, even our destinies. Do you feel it? That constant rush without direction? That's not just modern anxiety. It's the pain of living out of sync with God. There's a silent urgency rising in the world, a stirring that shows up in dreams, in signs, in synchronicities. It's as if something is about to happen, something only the awakened will perceive. It's no coincidence you're hearing this now, and it's no accident that we're so close to 0707, a rare moment where the 7 repeats, like the heavens themselves sending a coded message. The real question is, will you ignore the call or follow it to the end? Because those who stay with this message will understand what few ever will. Time is being divided, and a choice must be made. The Book of Jubilees speaks of a generation lost in time, and another that would awaken. In Jubilees 1:25 it says, "They will forget all my commandments, walk after the nations, and serve their gods, until I visit them with judgment." That generation, the one that forgets, is ours. We are walking in a time that leads us away from our origin. But judgment doesn't start with fire or destruction. It begins with awareness, with the realization that there is a hidden time ruling the universe, and only a few can see it. What if 0707 is more than just a date? What if it's a portal, a turning point where heaven aligns to separate those still asleep from those ready to remember? That's not a metaphor, it's a provocation. Because what you're about to hear in the next few minutes might completely change how you see time, spirituality, and the future of humanity. But to understand, you have to walk the full path. This isn't just information, it's a spiritual summons, and it won't be handed to you easily. All of this might seem distant until a single detail lights something inside of you. Sometimes, one phrase turns the key, a forgotten memory, an overlooked verse, a buried prophecy. All can rise to the surface when God's time draws near. And if you're here now, feeling this resonance, it's because something inside you still recognizes the call. Don't ignore it. Let your spirit speak louder. And if at any point you feel this message touched something deep, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe, because the separation has already begun, and you've been chosen to see what few ever will. What if everything we've been taught about time was wrong? What if the calendar we follow today wasn't designed to align us with God, but to distance us from Him? Most people don't know that our modern calendar, the one that controls holidays, religious dates, and civil time, doesn't come from heaven. It was shaped by empires, adjusted by popes, and manipulated by political power. But hidden beneath it, like a buried treasure, lies the sacred calendar revealed in the Book of Jubilees, a solar-based system of divine order. And according to that book, following the wrong calendar isn't just a historical mistake. It's a spiritual error. Jubilees 6:36 is crystal clear. There will be those who observe the moon, and the earth will go astray, and the times will be confused. This isn't about astronomy. It's a prophecy of spiritual confusion. God's time was always solar, 364 exact days divided into 52 weeks, forming perfect symmetry. But when we replaced that with the unstable lunar calendar, we severed the connection to Eden's original rhythm. It's like shifting the time zone of heaven, and with each passing day, we fall further out of sync with the divine frequency. This shift wasn't accidental. It served human agendas. When the Babylonians dominated the ancient world, they imposed their lunar system. Later, the Roman Empire shaped it to fit their rule. In 46 BC, Julius Caesar introduced the Julian calendar, which was later revised by Pope Gregory XIII into the Gregorian calendar, the one we use today. But none of these changes were spiritually guided. The motivation was control, power, authority, and the moment time stopped reflecting heaven, it became a tool of domination on earth. What's most shocking is that the Book of Jubilees predicted this drift. It says that in the end times, there would be a generation that wouldn't even know when the true Sabbath falls. Jubilees 6:34. That's why there's so much confusion around holy days, why religious feasts change dates every year, and why people still argue over the correct day of rest. But don't be deceived. This isn't just a theological detail. It's a spiritual test, a hidden filter. And those who are truly paying attention will start to notice the cracks forming in tradition's foundation. We're not just talking about dates on a calendar. We're talking about a spiritual code that governs the heavens and the earth. When we abandon that code, we lose more than alignment. We lose divine protection. How many times have you felt like you're always racing against time? Like the world is spinning out of control? What if that pressure is the direct result of humanity breaking from God's time? What if that's the real reason for the emptiness so many feel today, even when surrounded by everything? That's why 0707 isn't just a nice number. It's a memory, a trace of the original time signature, as if the heavens themselves, despite our confusion, are still trying to leave visible signs for those willing to see. 7 has always represented perfection, completion, divine rest. And when it repeats, especially on symbolic dates like this, it's as if a spiritual window opens. But not everyone will see it. Many will miss it entirely. Because only those who feel the stirring within will know. Something is trying to be revealed. Something that can only be understood by those who journey to the end. If something inside of you is waking up, don't ignore it. If these words have touched a place within you that you didn't even know existed, that's already a sign. A signal that you're ready to break away from man's time and seek the time of heaven. And if this message stirred something in you, share it. Comment what you felt. Subscribe to stay on this path. Because this isn't just another video. It's a map back to the divine rhythm. And maybe, just maybe, you were chosen to see it now. There is a forgotten prophecy buried under layers of tradition and translation that speaks of a generation that would completely lose track of sacred time, a generation that wouldn't just get the days wrong, but would drift away from the essence of the Creator himself. According to the Book of Jubilees, this corruption of time would mark the beginning of spiritual judgment. In Jubilees 6:34-38 it is written, "They will not keep the years correctly, but will count the months and days wrongly, and the entire earth will be out of its appointed time." This isn't metaphor. It's a spiritual diagnosis. We are living out of sync, in a corrupted, artificial, man-made time, and the consequences are already unfolding. But what does it actually mean to live in corrupted days? It means even our religious actions may be misaligned. Prayers said on the wrong dates. Spiritual feasts celebrated outside their sacred cycles. Fasting when the heavens are rejoicing, or feasting when the heavens are silent. It creates noise, exhaustion, disconnection. It's like tuning into a radio station at the wrong frequency. The signal is there, but all we hear is static. And the most dangerous part, over time, we start to think that static is normal. We grow used to the emptiness. This confusion in time was predicted as one of the greatest signs of the end, and the generation that would witness it, according to the text, would be one asleep in broad daylight. Jesus, in the Gospel of Thomas, Logian 5, apocryphal 1st century, says, "Recognize what is in your sight, and what is hidden will be revealed." But most people prefer to look away. Everything is right in front of us. Global imbalance, collective anxiety, the reversal of values. And yet, we keep following the wrong clock, as if it had no spiritual consequences. The Book of Jubilees also says that in the final days, God would restore his original cycles to a small remnant, a generation awakened, able to read the signs and return to the divine rhythm. That generation won't be the majority. It won't have political power, but it will have eyes to see, hearts to feel, and the courage to align with heaven, even when the rest of the world marches the other way. And maybe, just maybe, that's why you're here right now. Because this message only resonates with those who've already started waking up from the inside out. And the question that now thunders within is, which time are you following? Are you living by man-made systems, or seeking God's hidden calendar? 07 to 07 is not just a coincidence. It's a marker. A reminder that heaven still speaks, still calls, still reaches out. But the time to listen is running out. The gears of judgment have started turning. And what's coming next won't be understood by those who remain numb. Maybe that's why you're feeling this unshakable discomfort, this silent stirring with no clear cause. It's your soul trying to tell you, wake up. Something is happening, and it's not visible to the common eye. If you're one of those who feel this, stay alert. The next chapter will reveal something that has been intentionally hidden from your eyes for centuries. And it could be the missing piece that finally shows you the full picture. But this revelation will only come to those who have the courage to continue. If these words touched something deep inside you, something even you can't explain, don't ignore it. That feeling is your spirit responding. It's a sign that you're ready. Share this frequency with those who need to hear it. Comment what you felt. Say what stirred within you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because this is just the beginning, and the pieces of God's time are finally falling into place. Behind humanity's apparent progress, there lies a subtle and almost invisible scheme, one that altered something essential, the rhythm of the collective soul. And it all began when we abandoned the solar cycle, clear, exact, consistent, and embraced a time system governed by the moon, a time that is unstable, shifting, and confused. The moon, a symbol of mystery, impermanence, and uncertainty, came to govern the calendar of entire civilizations. And here's the strange part. Nearly every religion that strayed from solar time began to fall into spiritual collapse. Is that a coincidence or a consequence? The lunar calendar, adopted by the Babylonians, post-exilic Hebrews, Arabs, and others, never carried the precision of God's solar cycles as revealed in the Book of Jubilees. In Jubilees 6:36-37, it clearly states, "They count the months by the moon, and their Sabbaths and festivals will fall on the wrong days." This isn't just a minor mistake. It's a deviation from the Creator's original frequency. It's like altering the sheet music of a divine symphony and continuing to play with the wrong notes. The result? A world out of tune. A timeline where chaos reigns instead of purpose. This manipulation didn't happen overnight. First, they changed the calendar. Then, they adapted the rituals. Later, they questioned the commandments. Until finally, everything sacred became negotiable. Time stopped being a gift from God and became a product of men. Today, we live by political agendas, economic goals, digital clocks, all ruled by a time that wasn't born from light, but from darkness. Is it any wonder that so many feel tired, lost, and directionless? We are stuck in a mechanism that spins off axis. And here's what's even more disturbing. Ancient people knew about this deception. The Essenes, a Jewish sect from the 2nd century BC found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, vehemently opposed the lunar calendar. They kept the Sabbath according to the solar time and followed a 364-day calendar, exactly as described in the Book of Jubilees. For them, any deviation from that cycle was an attack on holiness. But those records were suppressed, ignored, or labeled heretical. Why? Because whoever controls time controls the people. This isn't just about theology, it's existential. The moment humanity lost contact with divine time, we began to lose our essence. We're born out of season, we celebrate out of sync, we seek God in broken cycles. And that's why so often we feel like we pray, but aren't heard. We search, but don't find. It's like trying to unlock a door with the wrong key, and that key was switched out centuries ago, without your knowledge. But all is not lost, because even within the chaos, traces of the original time remain. And dates like 0707 act as codes, reminders etched into the spiritual fabric of the universe to awaken those who still have ears to hear. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that's why the stirring inside you grows stronger with every revelation. You are remembering. And once someone begins to remember, nothing can stay the same. If something deep has stirred within you, if this message echoes in a place you didn't know existed, pay close attention. This isn't random. This is sacred time reaching for you once again. Comment what it awakened in you. Share this key with someone still locked in place. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Because in the chapters ahead, we'll uncover what was hidden for centuries. And those who make it to the end will understand why judgment has already begun and why so few have noticed. What makes 0707 so special? Why do so many people instinctively feel that this date carries something different, even if they can't quite explain why? Throughout Scripture, the number 7 represents fullness, holiness, completion. It's the number of creation, of God's rest, of jubilee, of sacred altars, of eternal covenants. But when that number repeats, as it does in 0707, something rare happens. It's as if heaven and earth align, even for a brief moment, to release a spiritual signal that only the awakened can perceive. This alignment isn't some typical astrological event, and it's far from empty superstition. It's a symbolic code left by the Creator himself. In Genesis 2:23, the seventh day is blessed and made holy. In Leviticus 25, 7 years lead to a jubilee of freedom. In Joshua 6, 7 priests blow 7 trumpets for 7 days until the walls of Jericho fall. 7 is always tied to transitions, collapses, and new beginnings. And when this number appears in the fabric of time, like in 707, it's as if a portal opens between the visible and the invisible. But not everyone sees this portal. For most, the day passes like any other, because the modern world has trained us to ignore the sacred. But the seekers, the sensitive, the watchful, they know that some dates speak. They don't shout, they whisper, they don't demand. They reveal themselves to those with spiritual sensitivity. And 0707 is one of those dates. A fold in time where judgment doesn't begin with destruction, but with revelation. And that revelation, my friend, has already begun. There's an enigmatic passage in the Book of Enoch, chapter 91:15, where it said that in the final days there would be 7 weeks of injustice before justice is restored. This symbolic cycle of sevens is directly tied to the timeline of judgment. Jubilees 23:19 echoes it. In the last days, all will forget the way of righteousness and walk in the path of destruction. But this judgment is not punishment, it's separation. It's a line drawn between those following man's time and those who hear God's time. An invisible watershed moment. And 0707 could be one of those ruptures in the timeline. Right now, you may be feeling something stirring inside you, a restlessness without a name, a sense of urgency without a clear cause, as if something is about to happen, but you can't quite grasp it. That's because your spirit recognizes what your eyes can't see. This isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of judgment, not as destruction, but as separation between those who follow the human clock and those returning to the sacred rhythm of the Creator. And this is where everything shifts. Judgment doesn't strike all at once. It happens in layers. First, it begins within the awakened. Then, it dismantles broken systems. And finally, it reaches the structures of the world. That's why you're starting to notice things you once ignored, feeling aches you never named, seeing signs in the smallest moments. It's the synchronization of heaven calling you back. And few will hear this call, but you are hearing it. And that changes everything. If this message is reaching beyond your mind, if you feel like you have to keep watching, even if you don't know exactly why, don't stop now. We're nearing the central revelation, and it's something that's been hidden for centuries. Comment below if something lit up inside of you. Share this with someone who needs to awaken. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. Because the portal is already opening, and those who step through it will never be the same. Can you feel it? The system is collapsing. Structures that once seemed solid are crumbling. What was once certain is now uncertain. The time we've been following no longer guides us. It only imprisons us. Humanity is losing its way because it follows a clock not created by God, but by men who sought to control the flow of life. But prophecy foretold this: man's time would end. And when that time came, there would be a separation, not physical, but spiritual, a fork in the road between those following the world's rhythm and those returning to the sacred time of the Creator. In the Book of Jubilees 23:25 we read, "In the last days, all will forget the path of righteousness, and many will walk according to the time of man." That's exactly what we see today. But the text continues, "But the Most High will raise up a holy people, who will walk according to the time of light." That is the generation now awakening. And maybe, just maybe, you are part of it. Because only those who feel the discomfort of man's time are capable of seeking God's time. And what comes after this separation will not be the same for everyone. For those who remain in man's time, the future will be filled with confusion, fear, anxiety, and uncertainty. Like a house built on sand, all it takes is one storm, and it all comes crashing down. But for those aligned with God's time, a new frequency begins to resonate, one of peace and clarity, even amid chaos. Time no longer becomes a prison, but an ally. Decisions become more intuitive. Answers come before questions. Because the Creator once again begins guiding those who walk in His rhythm. The separation is already happening. It won't be broadcast on television. It won't come with alarms or headlines. It happens quietly, in the mind, in the spirit. It happens through seemingly small choices: what to listen to, what to prioritize, whose time to obey. Man's time demands productivity, control, rush. But God's time invites silence, listening, and rest. Like in Exodus 28, where the Lord says, "Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy." But this Sabbath isn't just a day of the week. It's a state of consciousness, an inner rhythm that only the awakened can access. Have you felt something shift inside you since hearing this message? Do you see the world differently now? Do the things that once made sense now feel hollow, mechanical, empty? That's the effect of spiritual realignment. God's time is starting to vibrate again, and only those who are in sync will understand what's coming next. And believe me, what's coming requires preparation. Because the old time will try to pull you back, with distractions, fears, illusions. But those who pass through the portal can never return. The Book of Enoch, chapter 104, 10-13, says that in the end times the righteous would be remembered by the heavens and guided back to the path of light. They would be like torches in the darkness, helping others to see. Maybe, without even realizing it, you are becoming one of those torches. Maybe your simple search for truth is already shining a light on those around you. But to keep that light burning, you'll need courage, and you must not stop here. If this message helped you see something that was once hidden, don't keep it to yourself. Comment what you're feeling, write what it awakened, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time, because man's time is ending, and the last will be first in the time of God. What if everything you've heard up until now isn't just information, but a personal calling, meant specifically for you? Not a coincidence, not an accident, but a subtle alignment, perhaps planned centuries ago, so that your soul would hear this message at this exact moment. The final key isn't out there. It's inside you, and it can only be activated once you recognize that the time you've been living in is not God's time. Awakening begins when you choose to stop following the world's clock and start listening to the rhythm of heaven. The number 7 has always been more than symbolic. It is a spiritual code of return. On the 7th day, God rested. In the 7th month, Israel observed Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Every 7 years, debts were released. Every 7 times 7, the Jubilee restored all things. 7 is the number of reset, of divine recalibration. And when it repeats, as in 0707, the spiritual universe whispers, now is the time. Now is the time to remember who you are and whose time you belong to. But don't expect the world to understand. Those who live by man's time will mock, laugh, dismiss. But those who feel it will know without question. The Spirit recognizes what the eyes cannot see. So maybe that's what you're feeling right now. A light heaviness, a full silence, a strange longing for something you've never lived. but always knew existed. That's God's time touching your heart. And this time isn't measured in seconds. It's measured in revelations, in shifts of consciousness, in silent choices that redirect your soul. God's time doesn't rush. It aligns. It doesn't demand. It invites. But when it calls, you must decide. And that decision isn't made with words, but with intention. You can keep living in the broken rhythm of this world, or align yourself with the rhythm of creation, where your life stops being noise and becomes melody. Awakening isn't an explosion. It's a whisper that grows louder until you can't ignore it anymore. It's when you realize that everything that once seemed random now has a pattern, that the pain had purpose, that the crises were doors, that the emptiness was a call, the divine timeline pulling you back. And when that key turns, you understand. Judgment was never a threat. It was realignment, a second chance, a beginning, and you are standing in the middle of it now. Jubilees 1:26 says, "And they shall return to me with all their heart and soul, and I shall write my law within them, and they shall never stray again." That promise isn't for everyone. It's for those who feel, for those who seek, for those who listen beyond the words. And if you've made it here, something in you has already started to return. You've begun to remember, and now, nothing can ever be the same again. Maybe you can't even explain what you're feeling right now, and that's okay. You don't need to understand it with your mind. You need to answer with your spirit. If this touched something deep in you, comment what it awakened. Share this with someone who needs to cross this portal. And if you haven't subscribed yet, allow yourself to continue this journey, because God's time is moving, and you have just heard the call.